Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts, like the chart behind me, which is of Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR. And this is looking at it on the weekly time frame after a massive week, going up over 43%, closing the week at a price of $24.38. And so the reason why it ran up so much is because of earnings, which I did stream earlier in the week. Quite exciting to do that. Thank you for joining if you were able to partake in that. And yeah, so I just wanted to go over levels that stand out to me, whether this is going to continue going to the upside or protect myself if it is going to come to the downside, just kind of exploring different levels. And before we get over to the daily chart, I do just want to point out that the RSI on the weekly is at 70.54. It has been much higher in the past. And that was leading up to, these little pullbacks that we saw. And so I do think that RSI as well as price could go higher, but I do think there are some signs that suggest we could be nearing or have put in a top. So I just kind of want to go over those things. And that is again based on the daily chart. And so for this, I really just want to be comparing this earnings result, which shot us up, like I said, 43% over the course of the week. And then the last earnings call, which we did get a gap up over 20% on the day and then continued higher. So I just kind of want to do a comparison there. And one thing that might stand out, since I did just mention the RSI, is that following this earnings call, RSI was still below 70, so not in the completely overbought territory. We didn't hit that until we peaked here. And so, that's where we see the tops there before this drawdown and then our recent rally. And so right now we do have the RSI at 79.24. Yesterday on February 8th, that was Thursday, recording this Friday evening, the RSI was at 80.23. So definitely in the overbought territory, but there's also a lot of strength in it, as you can see. However, volume has been dying down over the course of the week, as it did over here. So I do think there's a lot to compare to the previous earnings. So I'm going to dive into that based on some drawings that I have previously done, including Fibonacci retracements that I did during the live stream, and then just selected the key levels for this. A little bit overwhelming, so brace yourself. All right, so these are all of the lines that stand out to me. And so I'm just going to kind of walk you through my thought process to kind of arrive at where I think price might be going. And so basically, before the last earnings report, we did see this drawdown. I did a retracement from there, and the levels from that stand out to me are the 100% retracement, which was basically the high that we saw before the drawdown, before the recent earnings report. And then also the 382, which is right around a price of $16. I do also have that marked by this red line. And we actually see a confluence, a number of these retracements at that level. So I do think that is a level to pay attention to. And that is also the level that price returned to after the post-earnings run-up. Price did dip down to as low as, $15.66. So that was quite the buying opportunity before the most recent earnings report in the run-up to $24.38. And then so from that, I also did some extensions going up that might be useful based on where current price is. And one from that is the 1618 at a price of $20.84. And that was approximately around the high. If you would have sold at that level following the last earnings report and then bought back at the 382, you would be in really good shape. So I do just want to point that out. But then if we do look at the run up following earnings, I have this retracement here. The only level that really stood out to me as being notable for, bottoms, tops, stuff like that, is the 786 at a price of $16.06. As I had mentioned, $16, pretty key level because that is the price that Palantir came back to. And then on the way up, I do have this highlighted here, shaded channels. So it does look like on the way up, we were forming bull flags that were breaking to the upside until we got to this price of $21.85 on November 21st. And so that does mark the high. And so from there, I did another retracement down to this low. Also, we do seem to have some bear flags that were formed on the way down, kind of stair-stepping our way down, just kind of the opposite of what we did on the way up. And levels that stand out to me from that as potential resistance for the way up, really, the 382 here, we did have a close below that, actually a high below that on February 5th, just before earnings. And so we did gap above that. So I do think that is a pretty key level. It's quite possible price could be returning to around there. $18 also corresponding with right around the high over here, as well as some other fib levels. We do see a lot of confluence there. So I do think it is possible that price could eventually return to $18 a share. And then let's see. Other levels that do stand out, the 786 at a price of $20.53. We did gap up to that level, opening below it, but then closing well above. Actually closing on February 6th at a price of $21.87, so just 2 cents above the high here that was hit on November 21st. So I do think that is pretty interesting. And then let's see, once we had come down to the bottom over here, I did this retracement to the top. That does include the 786 at a price of $16.24. So I do think, that is an important level because we did retrace to it right before earnings. We hit a low of $16.03. So that was a retracement to, let's see, the 786 from this shorter run up. So we did see that before, with this run up, we saw a retracement to the 786, $16, and again over here. So quite possible looking forward, we could see a retracement to the 786 wherever we settle at with this price on the way up. And so then there are two retracements to the downside that I did that relate to earnings. One is this gray one that you may not be able to see. It actually goes down to $12 and I believe 81 cents. Let's see if I switch over to the 4-hour. Yeah, that was a dip that we saw during the after hours just before that earnings call. And so from that retracement, I did include a couple levels that stand out. One is up here at right around $22, $21.77, corresponding with the high over here as well. And, I do think that is a level we could very realistically and not in the distant future be returning to right around $22. So I think that's something to keep in mind. There is also a higher level that I will show in a second based on this retracement that I feel like is really the most bullish case scenario. And then from this during market hours retracement that's marked in purple, some levels that do stand out to me on that are the 786 at $17.85. So we did wick up to that the day before earnings with a high of $17.87. And so we did gap above that, gap above the 100% retracement at $18.35. And the 1618 was at a price of $19.78. And the low following earnings was $19.76. So I do think that is also, another interesting level. And then the 2618 kind of getting out there with these in the purple one, $22.10. A lot of levels here at $22. And then going up even higher, the 3618 at a price of $24.42. Also coinciding with the 2616 from this initial retracement down before the previous earnings. That is at a price of $24.77. So, I do think current price, we could be at a top. We did hit a high on the day of $25.11. Something to consider, a red day pullback and a close below not only $24.77, but also $24.42. Below these levels, they are extensions, so take them with a grain of salt. And then, moving higher, we do have this one from this orange drawdown to a price of $25.68. I think that's quite reasonable. I think we could get another maybe final rally up to that level. And also, that gray extension, the 2618 from it goes up to a price of $27.31. So quite possible we could see $27. But, what really stands out to me is a pullback to 22, at least in the short term. Maybe we could get a follow-up rally up to 27 once the RSI cools off. But, I don't think it's going to be going up to 27 before we see that cool off. So at current price, I do think it could be a nice time to trim and then maybe add back in around 22, or perhaps at this uptrending dashed line that I have drawn here based on these two highs. From there, price could intersect that around $23. So maybe that is a level to buy back in if the RSI cools off. Maybe we get another rally higher, but then an ultimate drawdown to the range of $18 to $20. I don't think we're going to be coming back to $16, but 18 is just above that, and that would coincide with this gap fill to a price of $17.87 being the high on February 5th. And I almost forgot to do this. I just wanted to do one final retracement to give us an idea of where price could be coming to if it did return to the 786. And so taking a retracement from the bottom here just before the run up to the top, that would put the 786 right around $18. So I do think long term, perhaps, at the end of April, when we see the confluence of $18 and this uptrending level of support, I do think we will be heading back there. So something to keep in mind. I am bullish on Palantir long term, but after this big move up, I do think it needs to cool off like it did before, and I think that $18 will be revisited with this gap fill, so something to consider. And those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching.